All right, now the fun part. We're going to deploy this application. First, we're going to bring up the list of our Docker machines. So we have this Vidly machine on DigitalOcean. Now this Docker machine has another command called env for seeing the environment variables that we need to set to talk to this Vidly machine. So take a look. Here are a bunch of environment variables. Now we're not going to manually set these one by one. Instead, we're going to execute this last command. So let's see what's going on here. We're using the eval command on Linux and giving it this argument. You have seen this syntax before, right? So if you have a $sign and a pair of parentheses, whatever is inside the parentheses will be evaluated first and then passed as an argument to this eval command. So inside the parentheses, we're getting all the environment variables to talk to this machine. Now we pass all of those to eval and eval will execute them. So let's copy this line and paste it. Good. Now in the past, we had another command called activate. So we could activate the machine. I don't know why they removed this. This was much easier to work with. But anyway, so now that these environment variables are set, any commands that we type here will be sent to the Docker engine on this Vidly machine. So our Docker client, this Docker client here, will be talking to the Docker engine on this machine. Take a look. So Docker images, look, it's getting a little bit slower because the command is going over the network. So on this machine, we don't have any images. Now, here in the project directory, to deploy our application, all we have to do is run docker compose up. As simple as that. So docker compose up. Now we want to supply our production compose file. So docker compose.prod.yml. And I'm also going to use the detach mode. I made a mistake. I should have put -d at the end. So let's bring up the last command. So up -d. All right, good. So now it's creating this network, this volume. It's trying to build an image for our backend, I believe. Now here we might get a permission error. Let's see if it happens or not. All right, we got a permission error saying missing write access to the app directory. To understand why we're getting this error, let's go back to one of our Docker files. So this is the Docker file for our backend project. Now look at this instruction, work there. In the older versions of Docker, this instruction didn't respect the user instruction. So even though we set the user here, workdir created this directory using the root user. And the root user is the only user who can write to this directory. Now this issue is fixed in the latest version of Docker because the latest version of Docker uses a different build tool called the build kit. If you have noticed, when we build images locally, our build output is different from what you see here. This is the old build tool. The new build tool, which is called the build kit, gives us colorized output. So some of the lines are blue. You have noticed that, right? So the reason we're experiencing this problem here is because on this VPS, we're using an older Docker engine. And this is a temporary problem with DigitalOcean. Hopefully you will not encounter this in the future. So you can install the latest version of Docker engine and everything will work magically. So what should we do here? Well, we have to go back to our Docker file and instead of relying on the workdir instruction to create this directory for us, we have to create this directory using the root user and change its owner to the app user. So before we set the user, we have to run mkdir /app and using this command, we can change the owner of this directory. So we're going to set the owner user to app and the owner group to app as well. And here's the directory. Okay. So we create this directory and change its owner to app. Then we set the current user to the app user and everything else is fine. So with this change, let's bring up our application one more time and see if we encounter any other issues. So back to the terminal, we're going to run docker compose. Then we're going to give it our production YAML file. We're going to bring our application up in detach mode and we want to use the build option so our images are rebuilt.